لساني يفقه قولي الصلاة والسلام عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا سيدي يا حبيب الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. In every point of the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, अगर हम सीरत नबवी का मुताला करें तो हमको ये मालूम होगा कि हर वक्त मक्कतुल मुकर्रमा में हो या मदीनतुल मुनव्वरा, दिन में हो या रात में हो, whether it is in the city of Mecca or Medina, whether it is day or night, whether it is a journey or at home, who do you see standing by the side of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? You see none other than Sayyiduna Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala. In every single battle in which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam participated, Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala and was also present. You can say, जैसे कि उलमा फरमाते हैं कि Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had no shadow. And the reason is because his shadow was none other than Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala. That if the flame is enough for the moth, then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is enough for Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala. He had complete trust, complete reliance on Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One such incident, like yesterday we were talking about the victory of Badr and what happened there. But in reality, Badr, there was two victories. Because when the two superpowers of that time, one were the Byzantine Roman Empire and one was the Persian Empire. Because the Byzantines, they were monotheists, they used to believe in one God, they used to follow scripture. They had some similarity with the Muslims. उनकी मुशाबहत थी मुसलमान के साथ, क्योंकि वो भी किताब की जो है फॉलो करते थे, नबी की फॉलो करते थे, और जो फारिस के लोग थे वो मुशरिकीन थे, आग की पूजा किया करते थे. So they had similarity with the Quraysh. When the Muslims were in Makkatul Mukarramah, at that time, the kuffar, the mushrikeen of the Persian Empire, they defeated the Romans to such a severe extent that it was likely at this point that the Romans would never recover and the Persians would become the supreme superpower of that time. अब कुरैश और कुफ़ार मक्का वो क्या मुसलमान को कहते थे कि जैसे कि हमारे जो भाई है, the Persians, they defeated the Romans, soon we will defeat you as well. And this is a sign and a testament to the fact that our religion is correct, that we are polytheists, our religion is correct and your religion is incorrect. In this manner, a discussion happened between Ubay bin Khalaf, the disbeliever, and Sayyiduna Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala. Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala ne farmaya ke, you're saying all of this, but very soon the Romans, they will defeat the Persians. Ubay bin Khalaf said, how can you say this? Yani hum maan hi nahi sakte hai. With regards to Safar Mi'raj and so on and so forth, the situation was a little bit different. This, the kuffar, they could see, wo dekh sakte the aankhon ke saath, that the Romans have been completely defeated. But Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala, and he said, no, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said in Surah Rum, غُلِبَتِ الرُّوم, that Rome has been defeated, but soon they will be successful and they will defeat the Persians. So they made a bet, and at that time, gambling, betting wasn't haram. So Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq, he agreed to 10 camels, that in 3 years, Room jo hai wo Faris par ghalib aa jayenge. When he went and he told Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam ne farmaya ke Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't say in the Quran 3 years. Allah said bid'i sineen. And bid' means 3 to 9 years. So go back and amend the conditions, that it will be within 3 and 9 years that the Romans, they will defeat the Persians. Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq went back. Now the contract has been increased from 10 camels to 100 camels. Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq, he has said, I have accepted. When he migrated from Mecca to Medina, तो लोगों ने कहा कि वो जो आपने सौदा किया है, the contract that you have, what about that? So Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq said, my son Abdul Rahman, it is on him now. So now the responsibility is on his entire family, onto his entire clan. They say exactly as 9 years passed, within those 9 years, when the Muslims were victorious in Badr, at the same time the Romans, they out of nowhere, in the year 627, the Battle of Nineveh, the Romans, they defeated the Persians when they believed that the Byzantines had been completely defeated. So when the Muslims were victorious in the Battle of Badr and they were celebrating that victory, they also had this thing to celebrate in regards to as well. Yani the prophecy of the Quran, the prophecy of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And again, this shows the truthfulness of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because, if you were a charlatan, a fake person, you wouldn't put all of your message onto something which you can't control. Right? You wouldn't put all of your message, all of your mission onto one event which you can't control. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this was the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq, he had complete faith. Ubay bin Khalaf, he was killed in the Battle of Uhud. When he was killed and his inheritance was distributed, then 100 camels, they were put to a side and they were given to none other than Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala. This is a fortune of a lifetime. He's set for life now. He doesn't have to worry about anything. But what does Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala undo? He gives every single one of those camels in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He distributes them amongst the poor people. And this giving in the way of Allah, this is something which is unique. The way he gives is different. And we cannot even begin to imagine the maqam and martaba of Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq. Sayyidina Umar and Sayyidina Abu Bakr, they used to have competition. Sayyidina Umar, वो चाहते थे कि वो आगे हो जाए नेक आमाल में, कि एक दिन ऐसा हो कि Sayyidina Umar, he has a higher reward, or he outdoes Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala. When the Battle of Tabuk came around, this was a very difficult situation for the Muslims. Rasulullah was asking people to give. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, us waqt aapke paas zyada maal tha. He had more wealth. So he thought to himself, okay, on this occasion, I am going to outdo Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala. And wo ghar pe gaye. Whatever he had in his house, he separated it into two parts. Do hissa kiya. He took one part, he gave it openly to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, this is my contribution, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I can go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for more. Meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me before, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give me again. Rasulullah sallam ne pucha ke, what have you left for your family? आपकी जो family है, रिश्तेदार है, उनके लिए क्या छोड़ा है? He said the like of it. I have brought half, I have given you half. Rasulullah said, Ahsan, you have done excellent. He praised Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala. Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq, he was completely unaware. He didn't even know what had happened. He went back to his house. He took everything which he had in his possession. Up to the extent that some of the ulama, they mention that Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala, and even the clothes which were on his back, he borrowed some clothing, and he even gave the clothes which were in his possession in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He comes, he presents it to Rasulullah, he says, Ya Rasulullah, he gives it secretly. He says, this is my contribution, Ya Rasulullah. Rasulullah, and listen to the words he says. Sayyidina Abu Bakr, Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, and what did he say? This is my contribution, and I can return to Allah for more. Meaning Allah will give me more, I will give in the way of Allah. Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq says, Ya Rasulullah, this is my contribution, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can return to me for more. Yani whatever Allah has given me, it is His anyways. So if the time comes and more needs to be given, and when Allah gives me more, then I will give in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rasulullah, he asks him, what have you left for your family? He says those beautiful words, I have left Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This is what I have left for my family. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, and he says that from this day I realized that I will never be able to outdo Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala. No matter how much I try, no matter how many attempts I make, no matter what my situation is, never will I be able to do more than Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq. He's given all of his wealth in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At this point, they say in one narration mentions, he was wearing a single garment. Us zamane mein, wo kya pehante the? Izar, which would be the lower garment. And they would have a kameez, which would be the upper garment. But at that time, Sayyidina Abu Bakr only had one garment, the skin of a goat. And so he had fastened it over himself and tied it with some sticks. Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam, he descends from the heavens. He says, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, what is Abu Bakr wearing? Wo kya pehen rahe hai? Why is he wearing this single garment? Obviously he knew, but this is to show the maqam of Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq. Rasulullah, he explained, he said, why is he wearing this? Aisa kyun pehen rahe hai? Rasulullah ne farmaya, Abu Bakr Siddiq, he has given all of his wealth in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam ne farmaya, ki Ya Rasulullah, Allah is asking. Ya Rasulullah, Allah is asking. That is Abu Bakr Siddiq in the state of poverty, is he pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or is he displeased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So when Rasulullah asked Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala, and Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq is shocked, he says, Ya Rasulullah, displeased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? That I could be upset with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? No, Ya Rasulullah, I am pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I am pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even in the state of poverty, I am happy with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yani, this is why on one occasion Rasulullah he said, no one's wealth has benefited me the way the wealth of Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq has benefited me. Rasulullah used to use the wealth of Sayyidina Abu Bakr like it was his own wealth, his own money. And on one occasion he said that no one has put an obligation upon us. Kisi ne bhi hum par ihsan nahi kiya hai, siwaye ke humne us ihsan ka badla diya hai. No one can do a favor to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not in reality. But this is the mercy of Rasulullah. He says that no one has done a favor upon us except that we have repaid that favor, with the exception of one individual. Because Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq has done such a favor upon us, hum par aisa ihsan kiya hai, that the only person who will be able to give him his reward is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment. Qayamat ke din Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uska badla dega, and nobody else can pay back this favor. When Rasulullah was mentioning all of this, Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq, he was there, he heard this. Imagine what our situation would be, our state would be. We would have our head high, we would be so happy, right? But Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq, he goes into the corner of the masjid and he's crying. And he says, Ya Rasulullah, am I and my wealth but for you, Ya Rasulullah? Everything I have is for you anyways, Ya Rasulullah. And this is how much love Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq had for Rasulullah. And not only this, even Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he had immense love for Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq. Once, the people, they were going towards a battle, वो जंग के लिए जा रहे थे, और वो एक नहर या एक समंदर के करीब से वो गुजरे, they passed by some lake, some water. And so the people, they thought they will take some rest, आराम करे, and they went into the river, into the lake, and they began to swim. When they were swimming in this lake, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, let each person swim to his companion. Unka jo dost hai, saathi hai, sahib hai, har aadmi unke dost ki taraf jaye. Each person go towards his friend. And so each person they went, and who was remaining? Sayyidina Abu Bakr and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now what happens at that point? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself, he swims towards Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala. He embraces him and he says that if I was to take a Khalil other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I would have taken as my intimate friend, my Khalil, none other than Abu Bakr Siddiq. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has made brotherhood in Islam. Because the Khalil, the most intimate friend of the Prophet is whom? Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And a person, a human can only have one Khalil. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can have many Khalil. Sayyidina Ibrahim, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Sayyidina Musa, Sayyidina Isa. But from the perspective of humans, we can only have one intimate friend. And so the intimate friend of Rasulullah was none other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But he said, if I was to take another Khalil other than Allah, I would have taken Abu Bakr Siddiq as my intimate friend. On one occasion, it is mentioned that Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala and Abu Bakr Siddiq, they had some back and forth. And Sayyidina Abu Bakr, he says, मैंने थोड़ी जल्दी की, मैंने कुछ अल्फाज इस्तेमाल किए जो सही नहीं थे. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, he was upset. His heart was broken by the words which I said. तो मैंने माफ़ी मांगी कि ए उमर मुझको माफ़ कर दे. लेकिन Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, he did not accept the apology of Sayyidina Abu Bakr. He was upset at that time. So Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala, he went to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Abhi Sayyidina Abu Bakr ne kuch kaha bhi nahi hai. He hasn't even said anything. He's just coming towards Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says to the people who are with him that something has happened to Abu Bakr Siddiq. Kuch hua hai. He's upset. Abu Bakr Siddiq, he comes to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he mentions everything that's happened. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, eventually he gives up, he thinks, okay, fair enough, let me go. He goes to the house of Sayyidina Abu Bakr, he's not at home. So he knows if he's not at home, there's only one other place he can be. So he goes to find Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala, Abi wa aa rahe hai, he's still coming. He's not said anything yet. But the face of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it changes. His face becomes manifest with anger. And you can see the jalal in the countenance of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Because this is how much love he had for Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala. You can see the jalal in the face of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Sayyidina Umar is still coming. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he's saying that, will you leave me my companion? Yani, do not hurt me with my companion. That when you hurt Abu Bakr Siddiq, in reality you are hurting me. That when I came to you with the message, every one of you, you said I am lying. सबने कहा कि मैं झूठ बोल रहा हूँ सिवाय के एक, जिसने कहा कि आप सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम सच बोल रहे हैं. You are telling the truth, Ya Rasulullah. You are truly the Prophet of Allah. Who was that? It was Abu Bakr. They say after this incident, people, they would not hurt or harm Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq. But look how much love he had. When Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq, he went to Rasulullah and said that Sayyidina Umar is not forgiving me, then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he raised his hands and he said, may Allah forgive you, Abu Bakr. May Allah forgive you. May Allah forgive you. He was upset because Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala was upset. Another similar incident, Sayyidina Rabia al-Aslami, they're having a discussion with Sayyidina Abu Bakr. Sayyidina Abu Bakr, he says a word which wasn't correct. Kuch alfaz istemal kiye and socha ke ye sahi nahi tha. So Sayyidina Rabia Aslami ko kaha ke aap wapas mujhko wahi alfaz meri taraf istemal kare. You know, when somebody says something to you and then they say back, it cancels it out. Sayyidina Rabia Aslami, he said, oh Abu Bakr, I cannot do this. Aisa nahi kar sakta hu. I can't use those same words back to you. Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq, he said, say the same words back. Oh, I'm going to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sayyidina Rabia said, I cannot say these same words back to you. So Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq, he left. The Aslam tribe, the tribe of Sayyidina Rabia, they came and they go, अजीब बात है कि आपके खिलाफ उन्होंने ये कहा और खुद शिकायत करने के लिए रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम के पास जा रहे हैं. He is the one who insulted you and now he is going to complain to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now look what Sayyidina Rabia says. Look how intelligent he is. He says, आप जानते हैं वो कौन है? Do you know who that person is? That is Thaniya's name, the second of the two. अगर उनको मालूम हो गया कि आप बाहर निकले मेरी सपोर्ट के लिए, if he turns around and he sees you supporting me, he will become angry. वो गजब में आ जाएंगे, जलाल में आ जाएंगे. If he becomes angry, then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will become angry. And if Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam becomes angry, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will become angry. And tell me, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will become angry, then what will happen to Rabia? Rabia will be destroyed. So they said, oh Rabia, what should we do? He said, go back to your house. I will sort it out. Leave it to me. So Abu Bakr, he goes to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He explains what happened. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a bit upset. So Rabia comes. He says, Rabia, what happened with you and Abu Bakr? He says, Ya Rasulullah, he said something to me. He wanted me to say it back to him, but I didn't want to say it back to him. I didn't think it was right for me to say it back to him. Now when he says this, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam becomes happy. He says, correct, Rabia, what you did is right. Rather say, Oh Allah, forgive Abu Bakr Siddiq. Oh Allah, forgive Abu Bakr Siddiq. have mercy upon Abu Bakr Siddiq. And this is what Sayyidina Rabi'a did. He said, Oh Allah, have mercy on Abu Bakr. Oh Allah, have mercy on Abu Bakr. Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq, seeing this love of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that Rasulullah could have said, Rabi'a, say it back to him, cancel it out, it's finished. But no, Rasulullah did not want to see Rabi'a to even return these words. Rather, he told him to make dua for him. Bringing my discussion to a close now, inshaAllah ta'ala, with the final incident. You know, as incidents, they progressed. And the conquest of Makkah, Fath Makkah. The Muslims, they are going to enter into the city of Makkah al-Mukarramah. लेकिन वो जिहाद के लिए तैयारी कर रहे हैं, लेकिन रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने उनको बताया नहीं है किसके खिलाफ जंग करना है. This was very secret. They needed to surprise the kuffar of Makkah, so there's minimum bloodshed. If the people of Makkah find out, they will prepare, the fighting will happen, a lot of lives will be lost, a lot of blood will be spilt. So no one knows, but Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq is one of those individuals whom Rasulullah informs. They go on their way. Abu Sufyan, when he realizes, जब वो उनको मालूम हो जाता है कि हम उनके खिलाफ नहीं जंग कर सकते हैं, there's too many of them, he comes out of Makkah al-Mukarramah to negotiate. When he hears nothing from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, जब कोई जवाब नहीं मिलता है, who does he go to? And even he knows who's the second in command. He goes to none other than Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq. Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq says, whatever Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said to you, I say the same thing to you. And I add to this, I will add this much as well, because Abu Sufyan has not yet accepted Islam. He said, you know, if I had grains, agar mere paas dana the, I would do jihad even with those grains, because you right now are the enemy of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. After this, they enter into Makkah al-Mukarramah. Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq, he goes to the house of his father, Abu Quhafa. He's very elderly at this age. He grabs his hand and he brings him to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know what Rasulullah says? He says, Oh Abu Bakr, why did you trouble the Shaykh? And he's very elderly. Why did you trouble him? Why did you bring him to us? We would have come to him. Who is saying this? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the best of creation. He is saying that I would have come to your father. Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq, his heart becomes soft. You know, seeing this love from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sayyidina Abu Bakr says, Ya Rasulullah, it is more fitting, sahi to ye hai ki hum aapke paas aaye. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, we are in debt to him, Abu Quhafa, because of the favors that his son has done upon us. कि उसके बेटे ने हम पर ऐसे एहसान किया है that we have now a debt towards his father. Sayyidina Abu Quhafa, the father of Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq, now after 8 years of hijrah, he accepts Islam. He says, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The last person from his family to accept Islam. This is a unique quality of Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq. Every single member of his family accepted Islam. His father accepted Islam. He was the last one. His mother accepted Islam. He accepted Islam. His wives did. His children did. And even his grandchildren, they accepted Islam. 4 generations were companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The only companion who had this unique quality, that his entire family accepts Islam, and 4 generations are all companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now when his father accepts Islam, Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq is crying. You might be thinking, must be tears of joy, tears of happiness. But no, Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq, he was crying tears of sadness. Because even at this moment, when his father has accepted Islam, the final member of his family, the last piece of that jigsaw, now he knows that on the day of judgment, Rasulullah will intercede for my father will enter into Jannah, he should be happy. But even at that moment, Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala, and he's crying tears of sadness. They say, Oh Abu Bakr, why are you crying? And he says, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, I used to hope that one day you would have the same moment with your uncle Abu Talib. That one day your uncle, he would accept Islam, and the feeling that I am having right now, that you would have that feeling as well. And even in those moments when he should have been happy, he was thinking about none other than Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is why Rasulullah said that no one has done an obligation upon us except that we have repaid that obligation, except for Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq, for he has done such an obligation upon us that only Allah will be able to repay it on the day of judgment. And in one hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said that love for Abu Bakr and Umar is Iman. Love for Abu Bakr and Umar is Iman, and hatred for Abu Bakr and Umar is kufr, it is disbelief. This is a marfu hadith mentioned by Ibn Asakir. So those who have enmity and hatred in their hearts for Sayyidina Abu Bakr, Siddiq and Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala an, they can be anything on the face of the earth. They can be any religion. But those who have enmity in their hearts, they cannot call themselves true Muslims. We finish here, inshaAllah ta'ala. We will continue tomorrow. We make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through His infinite mercy, forgive us for our major and minor sins. Give us the ability to follow in the footsteps of Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us true love of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, true love of His companions and His Ahlul Bayt. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us in this life and in the hereafter. Sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin.